Hi everyone, welcome back. So in this video we are going to learn about this client server architecture. So basically this architecture contains two main components. The first component is the client and the second component is the server. So what is a client? Basically a client is a user facing interactive and user facing interactive and it means this is a place or this is a software or this is a application where users interact. Okay, it is also known as front end. Let me give you an example of this front end. So the video you are watching, the application, the YouTube application is an example of this client. Okay, so now let's learn about this server. So a server is nothing but a computer in which a process runs for indefinite time. Okay, you can think of a Node.js process running for indefinite time. Okay, it is responsible for processing requests from the client and returning the requested data, or you can say response. So the client requests for some data to the server and then the server responds back. Okay, it's really simple. Client requests to the server and then the server responds back. Okay, uh, let me give you an example. I am a shopkeeper. You requested for a Parle G biscuit. Okay, so your request is a Parle G biscuit, and so I got your request. Then I search for that Parle G biscuit in my shop, and then I'll get back the Parle G biscuit to you. Okay, so a client requests for data, a server responds back the data. Okay, now the interesting question here is, how do I connect the client with the server? So basically the connection between the client and the server is established through an API. Okay, API means application programming interface. Let me repeat it again. Application programming interface. Okay, so it's an interface. So basically what happens, the client requests for the data via this API. Okay, via this API. It does not directly interact with the server. So it interact with the server, it makes the connection with the server using this API. Let me give you a very good example of this. That is, think of this client as a restaurant, think of this server as the kitchen, and think of this API as the waiter. So you are sitting in the restaurant, want to eat some food, so you call the API. Here API is the waiter. So you call the waiter, give him or give her all the food items that you want to eat, and this waiter goes to this kitchen. Okay, this kitchen is where your food will get prepared. After the preparation, after the food is done, then you will get your food. So basically this client is connecting with the server using this API. Okay, in simple terms, it is a contract between the front end, the client, and the back end, the server. Okay, so to connect the client and the server, we need this API. Okay, so this contract specifies which URL to hit. Okay, the type of request to be made, the data to be sent, and other relevant details. So there are various ways of writing APIs, but one very popular way of writing API is this REST API. It means representational state transfer. We also have this SOAP and gRPC, but in this video we are going to focus on this REST API. Okay, so REST API, what is REST API? Basically in REST API, every real life entity is considered as a resource. So every real life entity, for example you, is considered as a resource. For example, you are user. So if you want to watch videos on YouTube, video is another resource. Okay, while making requests to a RESTful API, we must specify the request type. So what are the request type? So we have this get, delete, patch, put, post. This get type is used to retrieve data from the resource. This delete is used to delete a resource. This patch is used to make a partial update to the resource. Put is used to make a complete update to a resource. And this post is used to create a side effect on a resource. I'll explain this in detail in my backend course, so stay tuned for that. But for now, understand this. REST API have request types. What are the request types? We have get to get data, delete to delete a data, patch to make a partial update, put to make a complete update, and post to create a side effect. Okay, so you might be wondering what is the difference between get and post. So let me tell you. If you want to see my Node.js playlist, you will request for this playlist to YouTube, then YouTube will get you this data. So you are getting the data, you are getting the playlist. Okay, so what about post? So basically post is used to put some data on the backend. For example, when you sign up on YouTube or on Google, so you put all the information to the Google backend. So this is a post request type. So in short, post is used to send data to the backend. So this leads to another question. How do we send data to the backend? So we can send data by these three ways, by using this request parameter, query parameter, and request body. So if you see over here, so this is the URL, and if you see this ID equal 123, so I am sending the ID that is 123 to the backend. So this is how we send request parameters, or you can also say this as query parameters. Can I send more than one query parameter? Yes, you can send more than one query parameter. For example, if you see over here, so I'm sending this category that is electronics, and price range is 100 to 500. Okay, so here I am kind of filtering things. Okay, so we are using this query parameters to filter product, to filter electronics. Okay, and we can also send this data using this request body, using this JSON format. For example, I'm sending the name John Doe and email and the age. Okay, so you can send the data using this query parameter, and you can also send the data using this body. Okay, so these are the ways of sending data. We'll see this in action when we learn backend, but for now you should understand the basic concepts. Okay, so let me summarize what we have discussed today. So we discussed this client server architecture. This client server architecture contains two components, the client and the server. So what is a client? A client is a user facing interactive end. It is known as front end, and this is the application where user interact. Okay, the YouTube application where you are watching this video is an example of this client. Okay, or also known as front end. So what is a server? A server is a machine that runs a process for indefinite time. Okay, it could be a Node.js process or it could be anything, but a process that runs for indefinite time. Okay, the server takes requests from the client and then responds back with the data. Okay, then we learned how we can connect the client with the server. So to connect the client with the server, we use this API. What is API? API stands for application programming interface. Okay, so this API specifies which URL to hit. For example, if you want to hit this www.google.com, or you want to hit www.youtube.com or spotify.com, the type of request to be made, what type of request you want to make. Do you want to make this get request or post request, put request, patch request? What data you want to send? Do you want to send in query parameter or body? Okay, and we also learned about various conventions of writing APIs like REST APIs, SOAP APIs, gRPC, and then we discussed about this REST APIs. So in REST APIs, every real life entity is a resource, and while making a request, we must mention the type of the request. For example, we have this get to get the data, delete to delete a data, patch to make partial update, put to make complete update, and post to create a side effect. Okay, and then we also learned about the difference between get and post. So basically, get is used to get the data and post is used to post the data to the backend. Okay, and what are the three ways of sending data in the REST API? So you can send it in the query parameter, you can send it in the request parameter, or in the request body. So how do we send it in request body? So we use this question mark and then the data. Okay, we can append more data using this and sign. So for example, if you see here we have and, so we are sending this category as well as this price range. Okay, so and in request body we send a JSON, for example the name, email, and age we are sending over here. And I know this one was a very boring class, but I couldn't do anything. Fundamentals are really important. You should learn the fundamentals before learning the advanced stuff. Okay, so my suggestion or my advice is never ever skip your fundamentals. Learn the fundamentals and apply them. We will apply all these things that we learned in this video in our backend course, where we will be making a Twitter backend, a full-fledged Twitter backend. Okay, so stay tuned for that. And this is it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Thank you.